Our next speaker is Dr. Laurie Cardoza Moore. Laurie is the founder and president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nation, what she calls PJTN, Special Envoy at the United Nations for the World Council of Independent Christian Churches, WCICC. She has devoted her life to educate Christians about their biblical responsibility to stand up with their Jewish brethren and the state of Israel. Laurie Cardoza Moore is a successful leader, businesswoman, wife, mother of 5. As an accomplished media veteran, Laurie has been part of over 500 film and video productions as both on-screen talent and producer. With over 20 years of experience in the private enterprise, grassroots mobilization, and community leadership, Laurie is an accomplished advocate who represented issues related to family, women, children, faith, and country. Based in Nashville, Tennessee, Laurie's career faced a turning point on 9/11 when she decided to focus her media and lobbying expertise on American security in Israel. True to my heart there, Laurie. Through Laurie's tireless work and leadership, PJTN now has the capacity to reach hundreds of millions of Christians and people of conscience around the globe. Each year that number grows, with PJTN as the world's only pro-Israel organization with the support of the national religious broadcasters and access to the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Laurie Cardoza Moore. Dr. Moore.
Thank you all. I'm going to try to make this really short because I know time is getting late. We all want to see the outcome of the debates tonight, right? Because, oh yeah, that's right. We have technology. So I do want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come and share with you something that is another issue on Homeland Security, and it's the future. It's our children. It's in our textbooks. Never would I have imagined that I would find content in our children's textbooks that were not only anti-Semitic, but anti-Judeo-Christian, anti-American, anti-West. This is in the United States. And of course, it happened as was mentioned, 9/11 was a turning point for me, as it was for many of you. We were all New Yorkers then, and we still are today. We're still one united country. And we're very concerned about the future and what has happened to our country. Look at, we've heard the stats about, the involvement in the Republican Party and people getting engaged in this upcoming election because people see that something is amiss and people want to change things. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't pay attention to what we are teaching our children in our public schools and private schools, do not be misled to think it's only a public school problem because our private schools are using the same textbooks that are being used in our public schools because it's cheaper for them to purchase those textbooks. But these textbooks are undermining everything that you and I are fighting for, everything that our soldiers and our police officers are doing to protect this country and our communities. It was brought to my attention because of PJTN. One of the members of our organization, whose son was in a public school in Williamson County, Tennessee, and just to give you an idea of Williamson County is one of the top 10 most Republican conservative counties in the country. We are headquartered in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. You would not expect that we would have liberals who do not share the values, the Judeo-Christian values that this country was established upon. And we don't have to be ashamed of that fact, ladies and gentlemen, because it's those values that made America great. This parent called me up and said, "You're never going to believe what I found in our children's textbooks here in Williamson County." And I said, "Bring the textbook over and show me." She brought me the textbook, and in the textbook was a quote, under why terrorism, under a chapter that said why terrorism is on the rise. And basically the quote was legitimizing Palestinians killing Israeli teenagers in a Jerusalem restaurant because they were waging a war against Israeli government policies and army actions. Well, look at 9/11. Those men who flew those planes into the buildings, into the Twin Towers, into the Pentagon, into the ground in Pennsylvania, had a beef with our policies too. So what makes them better, or what makes it different? We have the Savarna brothers in Boston. They had a beef with our policies in Iraq and Afghanistan. So why would we arrest them? If we're going to legitimize this in our children's textbooks, when I saw the textbook, I asked the mother, I said, what happened? How did you find out about this? She said, my son came home one day and says to me, Mom, who has legitimate rights to the land of Israel? And of course, Julie, this is a kid who grew up in a strong Christian home. Her son went to Bible study with my son. And she said, what does the Bible say? He says, no, Mom. I know what the Bible says. But tell me who really has legitimate rights to the land of Israel. And that's when she brought it to my attention. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's very dangerous, the trend, because the textbook being used in Tennessee is not just being used there. New York State similarly has problems, as well as every state across this country. They have been busy working at undermining everything that we believe in, because our children one day are going to graduate. And I will tell you, this textbook that was published by Pearson Publishers, and let me just give you a little overview about Pearson, and then how we were able to affect change, and how even New York State is taking this issue on. Pearson Publishers is a British-based textbook publishing company. We wonder why anti-Semitism is on the rise in Europe, and we think it's not going to happen here. The anti-West, anti-Israel, anti-American belief system, we're colonialists. That mentality is being taught to our children right underneath our noses, and we don't know it. How many of you have children in the public school system or grandchildren? Raise your hands. We're fighting. We're concerned about the next election. You know what? They're fighting the long war. Pearson Publishers is the largest textbook publishing company in the world. 60% of their sales come out of the United States of America. Now, please keep in mind, Pearson is not the only guilty party. All of the textbook publishing companies are just as guilty. Of course, Pearson is buying them all up. But Pearson Publishers, the Libyan government owns 26 million shares of Pearson stock. Saudi Arabia is a shareholder. Qatar, Turkey. Do you think that they're going to communicate those Western values to our children? Do you wonder why your kids don't bring textbooks home anymore? Do you wonder why there's no homework at home? And they have an extra class built into the day at school so that the kids can do their homework in that class under the supervision of a teacher, not under the supervision of parents. Do you wonder why that's happening? Because there is an agenda, and it is to take over this country. So everything that you and I are doing to bust our butt to turn this country back to the nation that it used to be is being undermined in our school system. I will tell you that we made such an outcry. We caused such an outcry in Tennessee. We launched a media campaign against Pearson Publishers. We went to the superintendent of schools in Williamson County. We demanded that the superintendent and the school board remove the textbook, because not only was it anti-Semitic, as I said, it was anti-American. There was a statement in the textbook that addressed the Arab-Israeli conflict, and it accused Israel of being occupiers. Wrong. I'm sorry. We're either Jewish or Christian in this room, and I read my Bible, and God gave that land to a specific people In fact, the first thing he told Abraham was to leave his family in Ur of the Chaldees and go to a land that he would show him. And God made that covenant with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants forever. And the last time I checked, forever is still. Thank you. I'm going to wrap it up, and then we're going to take a couple of questions. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, if we don't fight for truth in our textbooks with our children's education, this textbook that we brought before the school board, the superintendent of the schools in Williamson County is a Christian. He says he is. He's also of German descent. So when I met with him privately, I said, I understand you're a Christian. And he says, yes, I am. And I said, and I also understand you're from Germany, right? He said, yes. I said, good. Well, as your sister in Christ, I'm asking you, if anybody should understand how important removing textbooks with this type of propaganda in it, you should. And he assured me that he would get to the bottom of it, that he would put a committee together, they would evaluate the textbook, and I'm sure that they'll look into the textbook to see if it warrants being removed. Well, guess what? They refused to remove the textbook. So we launched an all-out assault on our school board and our superintendent of schools. In fact, we leveraged our media background. We started broadcasting on conservative talk radio throughout our Middle Tennessee, letting parents know, because we knew, we're in one of the most the reddest states you can get in Middle Tennessee, in Tennessee. And we knew if parents knew the propaganda that their children were being subjected to on a daily basis, it would outrage parents. And guess what? It worked. We launched the campaign in April of 2013. As a result of that campaign, 2 months later, within 2 months, Fox and Friends was covering the story. Al Jazeera did a story. We made international press because we wore them out. And our superintendent of schools, his picture was plastered on Fox and Friends with his phone number to contact him. He was getting phone calls from all over the country. And of course, emails. But not only did we do that, it caused such a stir that our state legislature started taking notice, because we have a majority of Republicans in our state, and they're very conservative. They had committee hearings that summer to evaluate what we had found, and they decided to introduce legislation in order to reevaluate, to totally obliterate the textbook commission that was in place, that adopted and approved this textbook, and they established a new one. Within 6 months of launching the media campaign, or the all-out assault on Looney, that's his name. Imagine that. But 6 months after launching this media campaign to expose what was in the textbooks, Pearson Publishers, it was reported in Bloomberg News that Pearson Publishers saw a decline in revenue in North America. By January of 2014, Pearson Publishers was laying off employees. That's the impact of media and the impact of one parent raising the awareness. All it took was one mom who was concerned, ladies and gentlemen. So let me tell you what New York State is doing, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll have some Q&A. Assemblyman Dov Hikind and Brian Curran are looking at taking the legislation that Tennessee passed with regards to evaluating the textbooks and approving them, to make sure that New York State is not propagandizing its children as well. But it's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, unless you get involved. So we're going to have to decide what we're going to do. We're going to be involved in campaigns, but we also have to get engaged in what our children are being taught. And whether you have children in the school system or not, if you have grandchildren or if you don't. You are a tax-paying citizen. You are an American. And this is our battlefield, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to go pick up arms and go to war on a battlefield like our young guys and gals are going to do. This is our war. And I can't come up here and fight this battle for you because I don't live in your community. You do. I want to leave you with a principle that God gave me as I was praying about how to take on this beast, because it's huge. And think about the consequences. If we don't stop it, ladies and gentlemen, this country is doomed. There is no hope, because there are generations coming up that are going to forget, just like in Judges 2:10, where God talked about there was a generation that rose up that knew not what God had done for Israel. And the same thing is happening to the United States of America. So I want to encourage every one of you to get involved, just as Nehemiah went and assessed the damage when he was given the authority by Cyrus to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He went and assessed the damage. And then he went to the leaders in front of districts and people who lived in front of sections of the wall. And he convinced every one of them to build their section. Every county across this country is a section of the wall. And you must build your section, because eventually, ladies and gentlemen, the wall will connect. And we can do it. Nehemiah was able to do it in record time. But we all have to cooperate. We all have to be willing to get into the fight. So God bless you. And call Brian, call Dove, and let them know you want to know when they're going to introduce this legislation and that you support it. BDS is one of the extensions of this propagandizing in our children's schools. I picked up my daughter from school one day. This was a couple years ago when we were in the midst of this battle. And there were 5 boys who left the school building. I have a pro-Israel bumper sticker on the back of my vehicle. It says protect and defend with the Israeli flag and the U.S. flag. And these 5 boys walked past the back end of my Suburban. I couldn't hear them because the car is running, air conditioners blowing. I can see them cutting up and walking past the vehicle. I'm watching them because I'm waiting for my daughter to come out of the building. They get about 20, 30 feet from the front end of my car. 2 of the 5 boys does this to me. Now, you know, living in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, those boys were either sitting in their youth group on Wednesday night or Sunday morning. So where are they learning this? Are they learning it at home? Are they learning it at church? Are they learning it in school? But these boys had no respect for authority. A mother who has a student in the school, and they pull that. This is what is fueling, ladies and gentlemen, the whole boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. The Israel apartheid demonstrations that are happening on our university campuses. It is out of control. We introduced a resolution in Tennessee condemning the whole BDS movement. But our children in our schools are being fed this propaganda when they're in secondary, when they're in middle school, when they're in high school. So when they get into the university experience, guess what? They're hearing it again. So it's nothing new. And of course, college, you know, when the kids get to university, it's in college that these kids start expressing themselves. They don't do it in high school. They become activists in college. It is a growing problem. Yes, sir.
Do you work at all with the Anti-Defamation League?
We don't collaborate, although I use their resources because they have great research and information about anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. I don't know if you all know this, but anti-Semitic attacks are on the rise in secondary schools.
Not only that, my friend's daughter got pulled out of Columbia on a full scholarship because of the threats and the harassment she was receiving.
Yeah.
She pulled her out as a sophomore. A
So
full
it's-
scholarship.
This is happening to not just the Jewish students, but now the Christian Zionist students are standing up on college campuses and they are being attacked too. I saw an incident where a woman who wasn't even a student at the university, who was carrying a pro-Israel sign in San Francisco, was attacked on the street. This is how violent these people are getting. This is unacceptable.
And it's no accident that the last 7 years of the Barack Obama administration has essentially been giving a green light.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that gave $2.5 billion to the Muslim Brotherhood. He's tossed Israel under the bus, workplace violence.
He's supporting the BDS movement.
He's
He agrees.
encouraging-
Yeah, he blatantly in your face, and then he says, he recently said in a statement, he is fighting the whole anti-Semitism, the movement, the rise of global anti-Semitism. I'm like, oh my gosh, he must have taken a quote off of PJTN's page. It's insulting. I can't believe this man has the audacity to say the things that he says and nobody hold him accountable. He is a liar. He has caused the division in this country. He has undermined this nation.
It's deliberate.
Yes, it is.
It's absolutely, it's not that he's making bad decisions, he's deliberately
It's
ripping
intentional.
apart the fabric of this country.
Okay.
Deliberately.
Do we have another question?
BDS, what's the abbreviation? BDS?
Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. BDS means it basically is government leaders, academics, and others who are trying to cut Israel off economically and through trade. That's what boycott, divestment, and sanctions is.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed by what comes out of Israel. If we look at the advancements in technology and medicine that come out of Israel, even out of what the world calls the settlements or the West Bank, we call it, from our Bibles, Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland. Yes.
Dr. Cardoza Moore.